Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis.
Interesting.
Today we're diving deep into Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Okay.
It's this collection, right, of personal reflections from a Roman emperor who, and this is the interesting part, was also a Stoic philosopher.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is that he never actually intended these writings to be, published.
Yeah.
Like they were more like almost like his personal notes, a very private space for him to kind of grapple with these huge questions of leadership, life, and even, death.
It's a rare glimpse for us, into the mind of someone so powerful, wrestling with these kind of big philosophical questions.
Yeah.
But before we get too far into the book itself, I think it's important to understand the world that Marcus Aurelius lived in.
Absolutely.
Right.
So he was born in 121 AD into this prominent Roman family.
Okay.
And then he was adopted by Emperor Antoninus Pius and basically thrust into this life of leadership.
I mean, can you imagine the pressure
Oh, yeah.
to become emperor during such a crazy period?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a time marked by war, plagues, barbarian invasions. Like, how did he even have time to think about philosophy?
It's true.
So tell me a little bit more about Stoicism, because that's, I think at the heart of what we're talking about today. What was it about this philosophy that appealed to someone like him?
Well, Stoicism is really about, it emphasizes virtue, reason, and living in harmony with nature, which the Stoics called logos.
Logos.
Yes. And it's basically a framework for navigating a world that's full of uncertainty, which I think would be particularly appealing, to someone like Marcus Aurelius, a leader in such a tumultuous time.
Right.
And I think a really important point is that it wasn't about just suppressing emotions, but more about understanding them and then choosing how to respond to them.
Okay.
So it's almost like, using reason as a guide instead of just being controlled by your passions.
I can see how that would be helpful. All right, so let's talk about the book itself, Meditations.
Hmm.
What are some of the big themes, that jump out at you?
Well, one of the big ones, and it kind of resonates throughout the entire work, is the idea of the transience of life.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius constantly reflects on how everything changes, how everything passes away. And he uses these really vivid images to illustrate the point. Like he'll compare existence to a river.
Oh, wow.
And he'll even remind himself that even these great figures of the past, are now just dust and ashes.
It seems like that awareness of death almost, it wasn't like a morbid thing for him, but it was almost a motivator, right?
Yeah.
To like focus on what's important. Did that tie into the Stoic emphasis on virtue at all?
Absolutely, yeah. For Marcus Aurelius, virtue is like the foundation of a good life. And the Stoics, they actually emphasize 4 cardinal virtues.
Okay.
Wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And you see him in the text really striving to embody these qualities in his actions.
And everything he does.
Yeah. Yeah. From, his reflections on treating others justly to his commitment to fulfilling his duty as emperor.
I mean, he even talks about treating those who've wronged him, with kindness and justice. That's pretty hard to do.
It is.
It sounds like he really believed in the power of the mind.
Oh, absolutely.
To shape our actions and how we respond.
That's another really key theme, the power of the mind. And the Stoics believe that, we can't control what happens to us.
The external events.
Right. But we can control how we react.
How we choose to respond.
Exactly. And so Marcus Aurelius, he uses reason, self-discipline, to overcome these challenges. He's constantly reminding himself to focus on what he can actually control, his thoughts, his choices, and his actions.
So it's not just about pushing down your emotions or willing them away.
No, it's a lot more nuanced than that. It's more about recognizing that our emotions are often a product of our judgments.
Okay.
So if you can shift your perspective on a situation, you can actually change how you feel about it.
And this idea of choosing your perspective connects back to that living in harmony with nature, the logos we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. So the Stoics believed that the universe was governed by this rational order, and humans should strive to live in accordance with it. So I think the question then becomes, how did Marcus Aurelius, how did he try to align himself with this logos? Well, for him, it meant accepting what was beyond his control.
Okay.
And focusing on fulfilling his duty as a human being and a leader.
Okay.
So he found a lot of meaning and purpose in serving something larger than himself, serving the greater good.
That's a powerful idea.
Mm-hmm.
But how did these ideas play out in his daily life? How did he manage to be a Roman emperor with all those challenges while also trying to live by these Stoic principles?
I think think what really strikes me when I read Meditations is that it's not like some dry philosophy book, you know. It's actually very relatable. Like we see Marcus Aurelius struggling with, you know, very normal everyday things like dealing with difficult people.
Oh, yeah, totally. And there's that one passage where he talks about, like, waking up each morning and mentally preparing himself to encounter people who are, and I'm quoting here, meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly.
Yeah, that's from book 2.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a perfect example of how to actually put Stoicism into practice. It's not about pretending that these people don't exist, but it's about, you know, choosing not to let their bad behavior dictate your own.
So he's not saying that we should just be passive.
Right. Not at all.
You know, in the face of negativity or injustice or anything.
He actually talks about holding people accountable for their actions, but doing so with kindness and justice.
Okay.
And you know, examining your own motivations to make sure that you're acting from a place of genuine concern for others, not just anger or thirst for revenge.
I guess it's sort of about like setting boundaries.
Yeah.
But with empathy and constantly sort of checking in with yourself.
Exactly.
It's a practice.
It is a practice, and that's what's so inspiring about Meditations, I think. It's like a record of his own personal journey, you know, his struggles, his triumphs, his failures. It's not really a how-to guide for instant enlightenment, but more of an invitation to, you know, to self-reflection and growth.
Yeah, and to be patient with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
He really emphasizes patience, both with ourselves and with others, recognizing that, you know, we all make mistakes, we all have flaws, but the key is to, you know, to keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to live in harmony with nature, with the logos.
With the logos. There's, I remember there's that analogy of the dog tied to the wagon.
Yes.
Where, you know, the dog can either choose to run alongside the wagon or be dragged by it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't control that the wagon's moving.
Right.
But he can choose how it's going to respond.
Yeah. It's a classic Stoic analogy for free will. We may not have control over everything that happens in life, but we always have the power to choose how we react, how we interpret those events, and how we let them shape us. And that choice, that's where our freedom lies.
That's so empowering, isn't it?
It is.
Even when we're facing difficult things, we still have, you know, agency.
You do.
We still have that power to choose how we respond.
And that choice, I think, is really the essence of Stoicism. And for Marcus Aurelius, this sense of urgency, this awareness of, you know, the fact that life is fleeting, it's a major theme throughout the book.
Yeah, and he has that really, it's a stark image.
Yeah.
But he compares human lives to a blob of semen, tomorrow embalming fluid ash.
Yeah, it's a very blunt reminder that our time is limited and we shouldn't waste it on things that don't really matter.
Right.
You know, don't get bogged down in, you know, the trivialities, the drama, the pursuit of external validation.
Right. Focus on the things that really matter. Virtue, relationships, living in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
I think that's where, you know, Stoicism is still relevant for us today. Mm-hmm. It gives us this framework for navigating a world that can often feel very chaotic and overwhelming.
Absolutely. It gives us these principles to guide our actions and this way of thinking that can help us find, you know, some peace and meaning even in the midst of really difficult circumstances.
It's really remarkable how insightful this book still is after all these years. I mean, we're talking about a Roman emperor writing almost 2,000 years ago, and his words are still so powerful and relevant for us today.
I think it really speaks to the universality of the human experience.
Yeah.
You know, the challenges that Marcus Aurelius faced, the pressures of leadership, the search for meaning, the inevitability of death. Those are things that we all grapple with no matter who we are or when we live.
Yeah, it's like looking through a window to the past, but seeing ourselves reflected back.
That's a great way to put it.
Which is why I think Meditations continues to be such a powerful and enduring work.
But I think it's important to, you know, we've talked about virtue, we've talked about facing challenges, but I kind of want to delve a little bit deeper into what those Stoic virtues really meant to Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because it wasn't just about being a good person, right?
Yeah. Right.
In some vague sense.
He was really focused on very specific virtues.
Okay.
So, as we mentioned before, Stoicism emphasizes 4 cardinal virtues.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And you see these themes woven throughout the text. So, you know, wisdom involved seeking knowledge and using reason to guide your actions. Justice meant treating others fairly and honestly, upholding what is right.
What about courage? I mean, he was an emperor.
Right.
So I imagine he had to, you know, face wars and battles and things like that. Was it just about physical bravery, or was it something more than that?
Yeah, Stoic courage, it's definitely not just about what happens on a battlefield.
It's also about, facing your fears, standing up for what you believe in, even when it's really hard.
So what about temperance?
Right.
What did that involve for him?
Yeah, it's often translated as moderation or self-control.
Mhm.
Basically, it's about finding balance in your life, avoiding excess, and being disciplined in your thoughts and actions. It doesn't mean denying yourself, all pleasures, but it's about finding that sweet spot between, indulgence and deprivation,
Yeah.
living a life that is both fulfilling and virtuous.
And that ties back into aligning yourself with logos,
It does, yeah.
with that universal order.
Yeah, living in harmony with nature meant, living in accordance with virtue, using reason to guide your actions, and basically striving to be the best version of yourself.
And we see this reflected in not just his writings, but in his life and how he ruled the Roman Empire.
Yes.
He was known for being just and fair and compassionate. And Meditations really shows us how he cultivated those virtues.
It does, yeah.
It's a good reminder that these qualities, they don't just appear overnight.
No.
They require practice, they require discipline, and, a constant effort to improve ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's a message that I think goes beyond, time and place. It's something we can all learn from, whether we're, emperors or everyday people.
Yeah.
But I think there's another side to Stoicism that often gets overlooked. We tend to think of it as this really serious, maybe even somber philosophy.
Yeah, it does have that reputation for sure.
But when I read Meditations, I also get this sense of almost like a sense of joy
I agree.
that runs through it. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the joy that comes from living a life of purpose, aligning yourself with something larger than yourself, and accepting what is, even when it's difficult.
Yeah, and there's a passage where he talks about finding beauty in these unexpected places.
Yes.
Like stalks of wheat bending under their own weight, or flecks of foam on the boar's mouth.
Yeah, he encourages us to really see the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
To appreciate the beauty and the wonder that surrounds us, even when things are tough, even when we're experiencing chaos or suffering.
It reminds me a lot of mindfulness,
It does.
being present in the moment, accepting what is, and finding that peace within ourselves.
And that's where I think Stoicism and mindfulness really converge. They both offer tools for cultivating, a deeper awareness of ourselves and the world around us, and for finding contentment even when we're facing challenges.
Because like Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it's not really about controlling what happens to us.
No?
It's about controlling our reactions to it.
Exactly. And it's about focusing on what we do have control over, our thoughts, our choices, our actions. And, this is a message that I think is especially relevant today, in a world where it's so easy to get caught up in the noise, the drama, the constant striving for more.
Yeah. Meditations offers this different path.
Yeah.
It does.
It's like a path of inner peace, of purpose, of living in harmony with nature.
A path that's open to all of us.
Yeah. It really has been powerful for me too. I mean, Meditations has been this framework for me to kind of make sense of myself and the world and find some, meaning even when things are tough.
Yeah. It's one of those books that, you keep coming back to and finding something new every time.
Totally.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here, what really stands out to you? Are there any of Marcus Aurelius's reflections that really, resonate with your own experiences?
I think for me, it's that constant reminder to focus on what I can control.
Yeah.
Because, it's easy to get caught up in all the craziness of life, all the stuff that's going on. But Meditations kind of gives you a way to take a step back,
Yeah.
and choose how you're going to respond to things.
I think that's the real beauty of the book. It makes you think, it makes you look at your own life and your own choices in a different way. It does.
And if you're interested in learning more about this remarkable emperor and his philosophical ideas, we highly recommend checking out the full text of Meditations.
Yeah. And you can find a link to purchase the book in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking book analyses.
And thanks for joining us on Mindful Moments.